How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at 2023 in horror. During the end of the year, I always like to do a bit of a wrap-up, talk about how the year was in horror movies, and also do my top 5 horror movies. And this year has been pretty good. You know, I think there have been a few better years in the past, needless to say. And it seems like some of the other years it was like tons of franchise films or, you know, all these classics just happen to come out in one year. But that being said, 2023 has had some really good films, and there's definitely a few that will be like, oh yeah, I remember that from 2023. Now, before I get into the year in review, I do want to say I haven't seen everything. Film distribution, and it is a good thing, has a whole lot more places to go about. There's a whole bunch of obscure little streaming services. There's a whole bunch of films that debuted at film festivals that only were in a few places. So I do want to say I can't possibly have seen everything, but if I forgot something that you thought was really good, definitely let me know. All that being said, before we get to the top 5, let's do a really quick look back at some of the cool stuff that happened this year. And let's start off with big franchises. Quite a few big franchises had entries this year. Scream 6, Evil Dead Rise, Insidious, The Red Door, VHS 1985, The Nun 2, Godzilla -1, and even the Hercule Poirot series decided to dip into horror this year with The Haunting in Venice. Tons of cool stuff. It is always great to see these stories continue further into one more entry, and a lot of those were really fun movies. Blumhouse also had a really good year this year. They had 2 super smash hits. They started off the year with Megan, which was this creepy robot doll movie that, especially through a fun little dance, did take the world by storm. That would have been enough for Blumhouse, but they also had another huge mega hit this year. They made the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, and fans had been waiting for that for quite some time, and it did absolutely crazy when it finally came out, and I'm not gonna lie, it was really cool to see these characters on the big screen. Universal gave us 2 Draculas this year. We had Nicolas Cage playing Dracula in the movie Renfield, and then we also got a single chapter from the Dracula novel adapted as The Last Voyage of the Demeter. And I have to say, when Universal started making classic monster stuff again, I saw Invisible Man and I thought, that's cool, let's build another cinematic universe around this. And Universal went, no, we're just gonna do whatever. And at first I was kind of upset that there wasn't more focus, but then I got 2 very different Dracula movies, and I liked them both. So I think with this year, doing 2 different Draculas, it really did show that maybe just doing whatever can be pretty fun. They also put out a Dracula comic book over with Image, and that's doing pretty well as well. So yeah, Universal Crazy Monster Party, who knows what's gonna happen. A few horror movie icons made some stuff this year. We got 2 things from Stephen King. The Boogeyman, which came out alright, and Pet Sematary Bloodlines, a prequel to the new Pet Sematary, which I haven't seen yet, but I heard was okay. I'll have to check it out later. M. Night Shyamalan made Knock at the Cabin, which was a pretty solid movie. And we also got a Junji Ito anime adaptation, Junji Ito Maniac, over on Netflix. It's a little better than Collection, and let's hope we keep taking steps in the right direction. Also, me being a huge shark fan, it was a pretty good year. We had The Meg 2: The Trench, which was a fun little movie. I do wish it was bigger and cheesier, though. And for those of you that wanted a super cheesy shark movie, we had Tommy Wiseau, creator of The Room, giving us his second movie, Big Shark. And boy, Big Shark is a so bad it's good head trip. If it comes to a theater near you, definitely check it out. Alright, that was a good little overview of the horror movies. Let's go ahead and talk about the top 5 of this year. Some pretty good stuff. Number 5, I'm going to have to give that to The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's a really good idea. I like the idea of doing just one chapter from the Dracula book and saying that's enough to do a whole movie out of. But being trapped on this ship, really good, dark, old-timey horror, kind of claustrophobic in the bowels of the ship, not knowing where Dracula's going to be, it's good and dark and scary. It's like Alien, but with Dracula on a boat, and I thought it was pretty fun. Moving on to number 4, and I'm going to have to give number 4 to Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving originally started out live as a fake trailer in the Grindhouse double feature. A few of the films from these fake trailers would get made into full movies like Machete and Hobo with a Shotgun, and a lot of people said, we want to see Thanksgiving made into a full movie, and they finally did that. Granted, it's a little more modern than the original version of the trailer, and that is one of the things I wasn't a huge fan of, but despite it being modern, it was really good. It had a fun, almost Scream-style mystery element behind it, with some really good and in some cases some pretty brutal kills, and it kind of reminded me of the new Halloween and the new Scream films. And I think with those films, you know, they are showing that there is a new place for slasher movies, and slashers are kind of figuring out where they stand in this modern era, and I think, you know, showing this with Halloween and showing this with Scream and now getting a new IP up and running, I think that there is about to be some new life for the slasher movie subgenre, and I really am curious where this is going. So Thanksgiving is number 4. Moving on to number 3, I'm going to have to give that to Evil Dead Rise. This is the sequel to the remake of The Evil Dead, where another volume of the Necronomicon is found in the basement of this apartment building. An apartment this time around. That's cool to see Evil Dead in a urban setting. That's pretty fun. And we still do get some good bits of carnage and gore, and the Deadites up to their shenanigans. This time around we get a primary Deadite, this mother character, really good and really creepy. Evil Dead Rise is a pretty fun film and definitely one of the highlights of the year. Moving on to number 2, and number 2 I'm going to give to the movie Talk to Me. Talk to Me was such a fun, interesting, and unique movie, and it was also made by YouTubers. And yeah, YouTube movies kind of have a reputation, but no, this one was good. I'm giving it number 2 of the year. A bunch of kids discover this strange porcelain hand, and when you hold the hand, you can see ghosts. And if you invite them, they can possess you. And it kind of becomes this thrill, like a drug. And they say they totally know the rules of the game. We can totally get through this safely. It'll all be fun and games and totally not dangerous at all. You know, we've seen a ton of possession movies. We also seen a ton of game-styled horror movies. But this one really does something interesting and different with the subgenre. It kind of becomes an ode to all the stupid things we did when we were younger, and it really is just a very interesting, very creative, very different horror movie. So yeah, I'm giving it number 2. Number 1 though, this is a big one. No pun intended, but I'm going to give the number 1 horror movie of the year to Godzilla Minus One. This is the best Godzilla in quite some time. It is a Japanese Godzilla that is absolutely blowing the American Godzillas out of the water. But you get this guy who was supposed to be a kamikaze pilot who backed out at the last minute and now has to live in the ruins of post-World War II Japan. and he has a ton of survivor's guilt. This movie is very human focused, and a lot of times the humans in Godzilla just aren't that great. But here, they're among the strongest part, but they don't sideline Godzilla either. Godzilla, being the visual representation of his destruction and trauma, fits perfectly into this drama here, and Godzilla does get his chance to stomp and destroy and terrorize, but boy, when Godzilla destroys the city in Godzilla -1, it has so much more weight and feeling and terror behind it than I've seen in quite some time. And Godzilla, he's the scariest he's been in quite a while. This is without a doubt one of the best Godzilla movies ever made, and I'm going to give it the #1 spot for horror movies of 2023. This was a limited run, and I had to really find a theater that was actually showing it, but I'm so glad that it came over here. I'm so glad I got to see it, because it's really good. Overall, some really fun horror films this year. I can definitely recommend quite a few of these, and that's my top 5 for 2023. To everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my 2023 playlist, where you can find a review for most of the movies I talked about in here. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.